So, scene one, the raging war, which we talked about a little bit in the beginning. So, there are two forces vying for our attention, our allegiance, and our worship. Number two, the rules of engagement are not kept by both sides. You do realize that. There are rules of engagement when you're in war. God only uses methods of love to draw us, and he gives us free choice. However, the enemy, he's very sneaky, right? He will trick us, he'll lie to us, he'll deceive us, whatever it takes to get us on his side. And finally, this battle is life or death. It's very serious. And each day we choose what side of the battle we're on and who has control over our lives. So we must choose wisely. So what are eating disorders? Now they're going to play around with this computer. So I'm going to take this over here and give them that area, as long as I can see a little bit. All right, so eating disorders. By definition, some of the eating disorders that you may be familiar with are terms like anorexia, bulimia, and binge eating. You've heard of these, right? Okay. So eating disorders include extreme emotions, attitudes, and behaviors surrounding weight and food issues. And often there's an unhealthy relationship between food and weight, so much so that it interferes with a person's life. Thoughts become preoccupied with food, weight, or exercise, and often people have unrealistic or self-critical thoughts about body image, and so much that these eating habits begin to disrupt not just their everyday lives, but often even normal body functions. But just so you know, although the word is eating disorders, hallelujah, eating disorders is not really just about food. There are deeper issues that are going on. Food, unfortunately, becomes a coping mechanism to deal with uncomfortable or painful situations in one's life. And because I'm not able to deal with these emotions, often people turn to food in order to help them to cope. Have you ever felt overwhelmed? Have you ever felt depressed? Have you ever felt like your world was just caving in on you? All of us have been there. And if we're honest, all of us have run to non-God sources in order to fulfill or to meet this need. Are you following me? Okay. So food is just one area that sometimes we run to. Sometimes it's drugs, sometimes it's alcohol, sometimes it's sex. Okay? So even as we're talking about eating disorders, which is a very broad thing, there's an underlying problem. There's a root that we have to get to. Why is it that I'm running to food? What is the emotional baggage, the emotional needs that are not being met that I'm trying to meet in food? Okay? Okay, somehow it works when I hold it, and it doesn't work when I don't hold it.
Just like a baby.
Is that why? Mm-hmm. Just like a baby, right? Okay. It cries, and what do? Oh, he must want some food, right? And so believe it or not, when we're very young, we learn messages about food. Okay? So, oh, honey, you don't feel good? Here, let mommy give you right? And so somehow in our brains, we associate the way that we get comfort, the way that we are made happy is through food. Oh, come on. I know you guys know what I mean. Okay, so what happens when you're happy? What do you want? What happens when you... She said chocolate, right? What happens when you're sad? What do you want? Okay, right. Okay, so when we have major emotions, whether we're celebrating, whether we're sad, whether he's broke my heart, right? What do we run to? Food, right? That's why it's called comfort foods. And bless our hearts, broccoli is my favorite vegetable. But when I'm in those moments, I do not crave broccoli. What's up with that, right? What do we crave? We crave chocolate, we crave chips, we crave ice cream, right? Those are the things that we run to. And those are some of the roots, I guess you can say. Those are some of the beginnings of when we continue to cope in those ways that we are setting ourselves up for other more serious problems. Okay, so I've lost all my source of content. Next time I'm going to try to memorize the whole PowerPoint. Okay. So, one of the most obvious eating disorders that we're going to talk about is anorexia. And I want you to look. These are twins. Can you see? Do I need to twist it this way? Okay, so these are twin girls. They are the Campbell sisters. Do you see something very disturbing about how they look? Okay. All right. So these twins are doctors, but they've never been married. They've never held a job. And haven't done normal things, never had a relationship. So they're about 5'5". One of them is 75 pounds and one of them is 80. Something wrong with that picture. But somehow, as a 13-year-old girl, they were coming down the steps and their parents were just, commenting, look at those girls. They're starting to develop. They're growing up into women. And something happened to these twins in hearing that comment that they didn't, no, I don't want to get hips. No, I don't want to grow up and So they were like rejecting this whole idea. So anorexia is a serious potentially life-threatening eating disorder, and it's characterized by self-starvation and excessive weight loss. Okay? And these are real ladies. Their names are Maria and Katie Campbell. And for 20 plus years, they have struggled with this eating disorder. So they were 33 years old. Okay? They had the eating disorder then. And unfortunately, a lot of research shows that twins or sibling groups have a really, really hard time with anorexia. So if one has it, the other one also seems to struggle with it. Okay? Okay? Because, some of you have children. Is there a little something called civil rivalry, civil competition? And so as one loses weight, the other one is competing. And so it's almost a vicious cycle with twins and with sibling groups. So it's pretty sad. Okay, some facts and statistics. Wow. It's a quarter after. This is going to be really interesting. Between 5 and 20% of those struggling with anorexia will die. It has the highest rate of death of any mental health condition. And 95% of them get the disorder between the ages of 16 and 20. 86% before the age of 20. And 50% of them meet the criteria for depression. So, an obsessive sense of, I need to lose weight, so often very low intake of food. They have an intense fear of weight gain, even when they look in the mirror. To us, we can look and obviously see that they are underweight, dangerously so. But when they look in the mirror, they see something totally different. They see somebody who is fat. So it's a distorted view in their mind. Yes? And we're going to get into that. Exactly. So, self-esteem often is overly related to body image. However, not everyone who's anorexic is per se trying to be to look like this. But it will affect all of these body systems. So I'm not going to go through all of them, just to say that people do die from this disease. You tend to be very dehydrated. Guess what? If you don't have food, what does your body need to work all the organs and the systems in your body? It needs food, right? So if you don't have it, the body begins to shut down. You can go into renal failure. You can have cardiovascular disease, on and on. Okay, some of the warning signs, obviously dramatic weight loss, or making excuses when it's dinner time. Oh, I already ate, or eating very, very small portions, okay? All right, sometimes very much food rituals, rigorous exercise, withdrawal. Most of the time, the devil likes to get us by ourselves, because when we're in isolation, that's when he can really do a good number on us, right? So we don't have anyone else trying to speak life into us, or to be able to say, hey, you think this is going a little too far? So we try to isolate, because we really don't want people to know what we're doing. Okay, so another one is bulimia. And it also is a serious, potentially life-threatening disease. And basically that is where you will eat, and often you can eat very large amounts of food. And then you go to the bathroom and you vomit it up. So that's one method. Another is copious use of laxatives. Okay, so some sort of compensatory method where you are binging and then you're getting rid of it. Okay. So large amounts of food, and as you see this lady, she's hugging the throne there. Very much out of control, though. Once you begin this toxic system, it's very difficult to stop. Okay, so just for some warning signs for you all, evidence of binge eating when large amounts of food seem to disappear, like there's a big hole in the refrigerator. What happened? Often after I've eaten, I excuse myself and I go to the bathroom. There's this pattern. I was eating out one time and at one of the smorgasbord, all you can eat buffets. And there was a lady, she was really thin like me, and I can eat. But, oh my word, when I saw how much food she was eating, I thought, next thing I knew, guess where she went? To the bathroom. And then she came back and more food. And so for me, I already knew what was going on, because, there's a certain amount of food that a person can eat, and you can even be like, okay, that's a lot. But then there's a huge amount, and you know that something's not quite right. All right, so these are some signs too. On the back of the knuckles, you will get what's called Russell sign, right? Because if you are causing yourself to throw up, you usually use your finger. And when you put it in your throat, guess what happens? There's a gag reflex that happens, and your teeth tend to hit on your knuckles. And so you will often have like bruising or cuts right on your knuckle areas. It's called Russell sign. Another one is, do you notice the teeth on this person? So gastric contents are very acidic. It's supposed to be in your stomach. It's not supposed to be in your mouth. And so you get an erosion of the enamel of your teeth if you are participating in this dangerous event. Okay, and here's another picture which kind of shows the body systems that are affected by bulimia. All right, so another one, our third one that we'll highlight is binge eating, which I briefly commented about. Not every bulimic is a binge eater, okay? And some people who are binge eaters are not necessarily bulimics. So binge eaters you've heard of binge drinking, right? So this is binge eating. Okay, I'm upset. I go to the restaurant. I will eat a whole, extra large pizza, and have a sub on the side plus a, 64 ounce of drink, right? So binge eating is just eating large amounts of food. Okay, but each of these you have a feeling of being out of control. And after you've eaten all that food, guess what? You don't feel good about yourself. So it's a vicious cycle of trying to do something to self-medicate, but yet after you're done, you feel ashamed. You feel guilt. And who gives you those feelings? Satan. So you see, that's like a snare for you. Okay? All right, are there health consequences to binge eating? Sure there is. And they're very similar to those that you would experience with obesity: high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart disease, diabetes, gallbladder disease, and musculoskeletal problems. All right, so this is not necessarily a official diagnosis, but it probably is going to become one, and it's called orthorexia. Orthorexia. Ortho from the word right, okay, and rexia. So I put this in there for those of us who are in this world, lest you think that health reformers are exempt from this disorder. We are not. So orthorexia is a new phenomena where people get so focused on eating only pure and right things that they get obsessed of it, okay? And it starts out as a good thing. Is it good to eat healthy? Okay? But if it turns into something where, oh goodness, I can't eat this. This might have, 0.01% of, saturated fat. Oh, there might be something wrong, okay? So this is a gentleman. He is probably about 5'5". I don't know if you can tell, but he's very skinny. And he says that self-denial and pure choices made him feel more clear-headed, strong, and what's that last word? Self-righteous. There is a ditch for all of us, okay? So if in all of our right doing, we get this sense of somehow I am better than you because, honey, I only eat organic food, And so I know I'm going to heaven. I'm not sure about you because you're still eating, questionable stuff, right? And so we have to be careful about our thoughts, right? And the motives behind what we do. Do we eat well so that we can be in a higher status with God? Is that the reason why we do it? Okay, so we have to be careful, right? True, but in this case, it is, a twisted sense of getting more and more pure. And when I'm doing this and I'm eating so right, that somehow I am more righteous and I am more whatever, right? And believe it or not, this brother struggles with eating something that's not organic, okay? And it may sound weird, but believe it or not, our minds can get twisted and when the focus is off. And it can start out one way and you don't even realize where it's going. So just want to encourage us. And so this is another way you can look at it. A strong desire to eat right or to be good. A self-righteous attitude or rising above others. But many times they're struggling with temptations. And when they fall, they punish themselves. Often through fasting or other ritualistic type of things. And often they do feel superior to others because I eat better than you, okay? So this poor person, he's really struggling on, should I eat this piece of celery? I mean, it is 10 calories, but look at that sodium, 51 milligrams. 1 gram of sugar? I mean, this is how they begin to process, and it takes a while to get to that point. But who has eating disorders? Nobody in this room, right? I don't know. All right, who has eating disorders? Believe it or not, 24 million people in the United States are struggling with eating disorders. It affects all ethnic groups. It usually begins in the youth, more females than male, and you can't tell by the outside. Because some people are underweight, some people are normal weight, and some people are heavy. So you can't just tell by the outside package. It could be anyone. All right. One of the questions that people want to know most of the time is why, why is it, or how is it that people get these disorders? These are just a few things to think about. It is believed that 30% of people with eating disorders have been sexually abused. Some of these self-harm practices are related to what they call childhood sexual abuse or other traumas that they have experienced. A lot of body shame that triggers this whole cycle of starvation or binging. Okay, so the researchers are very conflicting in what their information is about the why, okay? So there's a lot more to understand. But we do know that there's this disordered thinking pattern that happens. And often the spirit of comparison or competition will drive a person to be like another person. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. Effort, as in these twins, the Campbell twins, they didn't want to grow up. They didn't really have a desire to develop hips and breasts and, look voluptuous. They didn't want to grow up. They wanted to stay childlike or like a kid. And some of it is an effort to look at media images, to look like the media images. Have you seen what the models look like recently? Okay, and often it's done to deny pleasure or to self-punish or to reinforce depression. Now, depression, when you're dealing with it, it's an ugly bear, and often we either try to do things to make us feel better, or sometimes we do things to make us feel worse. Oh, y'all don't know what I'm talking about. You never broke up with a boyfriend, and what kind of songs are you playing? Sad songs, right? You're not reinforcing, no problem, I'm going to live again, there's plenty of fish in the sea. No, that's not what we do we? No, we're playing, oh, he broke my achy, breaky heart, oh, I'll never love again, So that's an example of sometimes how when we're struggling with depression, sometimes it gets comfortable, that feeling of sadness and despair. And sometimes we will do things to almost reinforce that sad feeling, okay? All right, so those people who are high risk to developing eating disorders are victims of sexual abuse, especially when they suffered at a young age, victims or observers of domestic violence. And if you didn't know, domestic violence is on the rise, even in the church, okay? Women come into church with sunglasses and nobody asking no questions. And those who are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, which is also on the rise. The most recent tragedy that we had in the United States was the Boston bombers. All of those people that were at that marathon that experienced that could potentially be those people who are now experiencing post-traumatic stress disorders. How about 9/11? How many of you saw the Twin Towers fall? Over and over and over and over. And you just thought, how many times do I need to see it, right? So how many people were watching that? Could have been millions. So potentially, even as we're observing a tragic scene, we also can be affected negatively. So now I'm just like, I don't need to see it. All right, so bulimia in particular has been associated with trauma. And for these individuals, they're really trying to be big. Because in their mind, they're thinking, well, nobody's going to want me if I'm big and fat, right? So it's a way to self-protect themselves. All right, so here's a question for you. Now, remember I told you, you may be thinking about all those other people out there, but I want you to consider yourself today is when you're eating, what's in it for you? What are you getting out of it? Food. But what else? What else, right? So as you're eating, I really want you to think about it. What's in it for me?
Enjoy it. It makes you feel better.
Right. Okay? So ask yourselves, why do you eat the way you do? What does it give you? What need is it meeting? Okay? Then, after you're able to do that, because if we're living in denial, you can't get any help. You realize that? It's only when we realize that we are in trouble and we need help that we can cry out to God and ask for help. But when we're walking around thinking, oh, no, I'm good. I'm good. You don't get any help that way. All right, so some of us, when we're eating to numb feelings. Have you ever done it? I have, right? Whatever that thing is, mine is potato chips. I'm not so much the chocolate girl anymore. But there are times that I still struggle with it, okay? So sometimes we're eating to numb our feelings, whether we're upset, whether we've been betrayed, whether we've been rejected, we're running to food, okay? Are we doing it to nurture yourself because we're not getting the love and affection, the affirmation that we need? Sometimes we're like, okay, no problem. I'll give it to myself. So whatever I want, if that pizza makes me feel good, if that chocolate makes me feel good, I'm going to give it to myself, right? Sometimes it's to make yourself undesirable as a means of protection. And sometimes people want to be invisible because if I'm invisible to other people, then maybe I won't get hurt. So once again, it's a way to protect. Now, what are the emotions that you feel from this picture? Any? Guilt? Okay. Does she look happy? Okay. So do you see a cloudiness about this picture? Right? So, Huh? Okay. Anything else? Okay, so she's by herself, obviously, in a very dark, gray, depressive. You get that from that picture? Okay, so, whoa. Who is calling out to her? Metaphorically. Who's her friends? No? No? Food. I'm your friend. Trust me, I love you, right? Are those all natural? Are those all natural things that we want to feel? We want to feel loved. We want to have friends. Trust me, I won't hurt you, right? So sometimes that's how you're getting it, from the food, okay? All right, so Kathy was talking about being out of control. So this picture is talking about sometimes your whole world can be out of control. Okay? Whether it be the children, whether it be the husband or the spouse that's done me wrong, or people, or whatever, outside world is out of control, right? And so with this disorder, because you cannot control what's going on in your outside world, you begin to try to control yourself, because it's the only thing you have. So therefore, some people do the eating, some people do the not eating. But the ultimate underlying thing is trying to control. Now, who do we want to be in control? God, right? But if we try to do it, it turns out, so messy, okay? So we talked about some of this. Although the disease involves food, it has physical characteristics, but the issues really go so much deeper. And often there's intense emotional distress, family instability, trauma, abuse feelings of guilt and shame, teasing. So, just putting in my little plug here. Oh, be careful, little mouth, what you say. Oh, be careful, little mouth, what you say. Why? That's right. But why should we be careful about the words that we say? Oh, honey, you're looking so fat today. Does it affect us? Okay, do you remember 95% of people who develop eating disorders, when does it happen? Before 20, right? 16. So that is when I'm trying to develop my self-esteem, my self-worth, I'm dealing with body image, right? And so if there's undue focus on, girl, you didn't lose that baby fat now, did you? Okay, so what does that do for a 12-year-old? Oh, girl, you're so thin, the wind's going to blow you away. Okay, so that's one I have heard so many times. And I'm thinking, do you not think that I don't know what I look like? Do I need you to tell me that I'm skinny? I mean, did I not see myself in the mirror this morning? Right? So I think we need to be careful and more mindful about what we say to one another. It is often very damaging. And you're thinking it's no big deal. And for those Campbell twins, that comment by their parents, do you think that if they could have taken away that one comment for 20 years of seeing their children struggle with this eating disorder, right? Story after story, when I originally prepared this presentation, it would just break your heart. Every young person, every young adult could go back and identify one pivotal something that happened in their life. And often it was something that somebody said. The old folks used to say, if you ain't got something good to say, don't say nothing at all. Believe it or not, the young people are very much suffering today, not just with eating disorders, with cutting, with so many self-destructive things. And we need to be saying things that are going to build them up and not tear them down. So be careful of how we speak to one another. Inappropriate media and society portrayal of beauty. These are two supermodels. Do you see anything wrong with this picture? Well, do you think that it was their desire to be super thin? No, it wasn't. Okay, so the one on the right or your left is Isabella Cara, and she unfortunately struggled with eating disorder for over 10 years, and she actually died as a result of the eating disorder. There are many supermodels who have died. Many of them, they're walking down the runway and they stumble and fall. It is almost a requirement for you to almost look like I would probably be too big, believe it or not. Okay? They want size 0. Okay, and I'm pretty thin. So I'm about a 5'6". So for me to be a size 0, that would take a lot more off, okay? Okay, do you notice anything about the girl on the right? What does she look like to you? Ghostly? Like death, somebody said. Would you say, Papa? Okay.
She reminds me of the porcelain doll.
Yes, right? Okay, so, but does she look like she's 25?
Like 40.
I was going the other way with that. She looks very, very young, right? And so right now, what is popular, what is in vogue is these models that are very thin and very ghostly and very childlike, okay? And if you want to be a model, you will do what is necessary in order to perform. Actually, in France right now, because these are mostly European models, France just this week is deliberating about passing a law that would outlaw this right here. You to be able to even showcase girls or women that are, their BMIs, body mass index is below a certain, because they see how the industry is propagating this whole thing. So what happens when a 12-year-old looks at the Vogue magazine? What is the picture in her head? And she's 150 pounds. Right? Is this something to desire? Is this beauty? Well, it comes as a very costly. It's very costly. Because once you start, it becomes a habit. It becomes an addiction that you almost can't control. Okay, how about this? Is this beauty? And these are some, the one on the far left is like, just so you don't think this is a new phenomenon, this is back in like the 70s, 80s. Twiggy. Mm-hmm. That's her. That was her name, by the way, yeah.
They don't look that way today. The models as bad as that.
Oh, yes, they do. Those two models that I just showed you were recent models. And the girl in the middle is a recent. But actually, it's worse today than it was in the 70s. It's worse today.
Public ones, I think that's what the modeling industry.
That is true. However, when you have young girls who are wanting to be like media images, then that's when it really becomes even a bigger problem. So it may not seem like it's affecting you, but the youth who are looking, and this is the images that is saying this is beauty in society, that I must look like this, I guarantee you that they are going to try to do whatever possible to be able to look like this, because this is beauty. And nobody's going to want me if I don't look like this. Okay? So this is an insider view. This is in 2004. And he used to be the editor of Vogue magazine. So he had kind of been away from the industry a little bit. And he was just talking with one of the model agents. And so he's sharing this story that she was telling him, it's getting very serious. She was like, and she starts to whisper because, nobody really wants to talk about this, especially if you want a job in that industry. And she said, top casting directors are demanding that they be thinner and thinner. I've got 4 girls in the hospital. This is the agent that's talking, right? And a couple of others who have resorted to eating tissues. Apparently, they swell up and fill your stomach. So they learn from each other what ways and things to do, the tricks to keep your weight down, okay? So it's very sad. It's very sad. All right, scene 2. Yes. Right, and so in order to be a model on the runway, you have to fit in to the dress that they make. They don't make the dress for Ramika. Ramika must fit into the dress that they have made. And if they make it in a size 0, then I must fit into that size 0, if that makes sense. Okay?
Because they're saving a lot of money on
No, they're not. No, they're not. Okay, so scene 2. So if we do have some issues in this area, we need to admit that the problem is too big for me. And admit that I do not have the solution. And that I need a source outside of myself that is both bigger and stronger than both me and my problem. Okay? And once again, every day we're making choices of what side of the battle that we want to be on. So we must choose wisely. All right. So some of people are struggling with these ideas. You're not good enough. You're not skinny enough. You're not smart enough. You're not spiritual enough. You're not pretty enough. Have you ever dealt with any of these? Okay? And so these feelings of inadequacy lead to perfectionism and disordered thinking. Okay? Or have you ever said this? If I was only prettier or smarter or thinner or more spiritual or whatever, right? And you seem to have a loss of identity. If I was only this, then people would love me. Okay? All right. For some people, they may have started this, disordered eating problem and decided to stop eating or to overeat as a means to try to be in control. But now, the disease takes over. So with any addiction, initially, you're in control. I chose to drink, or I chose to smoke. I chose to do this, right? In order to cover up whatever the pain was. But at some undetermined point, you no longer are in control. The disease is in control. Right? And it is now controlling you. Does that remind you of anything that starts with an S? It's called sin. So Paul cries out and he says, "O wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from this body of death?" Do you think that's necessary for us today? Okay. Do they look like they're happy? No, they're not. And many of us, if we're honest, We have been running to outside sources. You remember that song, Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places? Often we're doing the same thing under the guise of Christianity. You know, we're all dressed up and we look good. But sometimes we're running to food, we're running to friends, we're running to music, we're running to all these other things. And really, we're empty inside. So Psalms, as we trying to wrap up here, Psalms 139 says, "O Lord, you have searched me and you know me." Isn't that comforting? To know that whatever you're going through, that God sees you. He knows you. And not only that, even though he knows me, all the good, the bad, and ugly, he still loves me, right? There's no need to hide from him because he knows what we're struggling with on the inside, okay? He knows our down sitting, our uprising. He knows my thoughts afar off. So we can deceive one another, but there's no deceiving him. He knows if we're feeling empty inside. He knows if we are running to things except for him. He's acquainted with all of our ways. But even knowing that, it says in verse 5, you have beset me behind and before. That's amazing. He is that's like surround sound Jesus, right? He's before me, he's behind me, okay? He has laid his hands upon us. So, these are just some spiritual things just to remind us of how much God loves us and that he wants us to be free. It will take you could do a whole week on eating disorders and what solutions for them. So this is not the end all here. But where can you go from God? You can hide from other people, but can you hide from God? Absolutely not. He is there. And even though we are struggling, it says in the word that his hand will lead us and his right hand shall hold me. Even though there's darkness all around me, and I don't know about you, but I've been there when darkness was all around me. Even the night shall be light if we have Jesus. So how do we overcome? Using truth as a weapon. All of us, like sheep, have gone astray. Have you ever done that? Gone astray from the Lord? Trying to do things your own way? Oh, I know how to fix myself. Oh, that's where you went wrong the first time, right? We've all turned to our own way. And in a sense, eating disorders or addictions or any other thing that you're using to cope that is not Jesus is basically turning to our own way because we're trying to fix ourselves. And it doesn't work. Only God can fix us. All right? So, scene 3 is about the healer. God loves you, and he specializes in extreme makeovers. I know I need an extreme makeover. And he is willing and able to restore our lives. So I want to introduce you, if you haven't looked at Jesus in this way before, as the wounded healer. He is the wounded healer. So Isaiah 53 says, who have believed our report, right? Can Jesus relate to what we're going through? Okay. You all are familiar with this text. Okay. He was wounded for our transgressions, bruised for our iniquity, right? So would you say that Christ has experience with trauma? Is there anything that you have gone through that he cannot identify with? Anything? He has experience with trauma. So can he relate? Is the question of the day. He was wounded, beaten, imprisoned, afflicted, chastised, tormented, rejected, despised, bruised, oppressed, and even murdered. Have you experienced any of those things before? Have your friends ever forsaken you? The one person that you thought really loved you, did they ever let you down? So, he can relate, even to the point of being murdered. So, how did he overcome? How do you think he overcame? So, the truth will set you free. And for those of us who have struggled or are struggling, we have to remember that we are who God says we are. We are not even who we say we are. And we're certainly not what other people say we are. Right? And so, who does God say that you are? Right. And so we have to reinforce those thoughts in our minds and take out the other garbage. What do you do with garbage? You throw it away, right? So what is truth? Here's one piece of truth for you. God loves you. And not only loves you, but he loves you with an everlasting love. Is there anything that you can do? Is there any sin that can out-sin his love? Absolutely not. He doesn't love us based on what we do. He loves us because of who we are. And we are his. So, if you have struggled with addiction, if you're struggling with whatever you're struggling with, God still loves you. There's power in the Word of God, and the Word speaks life, hope, and healing. Can you say this text with me? For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God, to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations, and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. This is a powerful text. That the weapons that we have to fight in this warfare are not carnal. This is not a battle with sticks and stones. It's over the mind. So we need to get in gear and start fighting the battle. Pulling down of strongholds. Eating disorders is a stronghold. Sin is a stronghold. Anything that you're running to God, you're running to something else except for God, is a God to you. Oh, boy. Hold on. I think it's on the next slide. So, this one is talking about casting down imaginations. Where are our imaginations at? Right? And every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. Where do we have knowledge? Right? And this is what the devil's trying to get. So, if he can't kill us, the next best thing is to drive us crazy. So, therefore, he conjures up events in our lives, tragedies, whatever. He's like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. He's a big bully. So, therefore, if I can cause them to have disordered thinking, I got them. I got them. If I can have them question the love of God, I got them. If I can have them question who they are in God, I still got them, right? And so this text is powerful in that sense. So many times God says, fear not. Why? He's redeemed us and he's called us, okay? Struggling with these disorders are not easy. Some people struggle with them for years. But I believe that God can give us the victory. And this is a promise. When you pass through the waters, when you walk through the rivers, when you walk through the fire, I think some of us have gone through some stuff, but God has been there. And he will continue to be there. But we need some healing in our lives. We initially got over whatever that thing was, but I think we're still rehearsing some negative thoughts in our brain. And we're still running to things besides God. So, just a little reminder from me to you. Yeah, you. You are special. Just remember that God sees... Oh, there you go. She didn't see it. She was right, dude. He sees and he knows your pain. Go to him. He's touched with the feeling of our infirmities. When we're hurting, he hurts. And he's been there before. Been there, done that. I mean, I don't know, when's the last time you were whipped with a cat of nine tails? Right? So he's gone through some stuff. And so he knows how to rescue us. So, this is your assignment. Commit to telling yourself the truth. When we talked about what is truth, that's the thing that sets us free. God's word is the truth, and it defines who we are, whose we are, and what you are to become. So, this is a little exercise for you. Misbeliefs are on the left side. I am nobody. Is that true? I am nobody. What's the truth? Give me the truth. Okay, you are somebody special. I am a child of God, right? No one loves me. Have you ever heard anyone said that, or have you ever said that yourself? What's the truth? Okay, this is a practice for you, because when people say this around you, you need to speak truth. Or when you say it to yourself, and if you're honest, I know some of y'all are saying some of this stuff, because I've said some of this stuff. No one loves me. What does God say? I have loved you forever. Oh, I'm sure some of you have said this. I can't do it. I just can't do it. Thank you. I could do all things through Christ. Have you ever said this one? I am a failure. Is that true? What is the truth? You might have failed. Have you ever failed a test? Have you ever failed on a project? That may be true. But does that mean you're a failure? No. Yes. No. But these are the things that we have to change about the self-talk that we're doing to ourselves. It's not true that you're a failure. It may be true that I failed and I learned some great lessons, but I'm not a failure. Okay? But when we rehearse those things, oh, nobody loves me, or I am nobody, you rehearse them over and over, and that becomes truth and reality to you. And then God's word cannot permeate your thoughts. All right, this is our final quote. Powerful quote, and I have the reference at the end. We are not to let the future, with its hard problems, its unsatisfying prospects, make our hearts faint, our knees tremble, our hands hang down. What is that posture? Do you see a picture there? Okay, sometimes we feel like that, don't we? Let him take hold of my strength, says the mighty one, that he may make peace with me, and he shall make peace with me. Those who surrender their lives to his guidance and to his service will never, how often? Never be placed in a position for which he, as in God, has not made provision. So in other words, there's nothing that you go through that God has not made provision for you. Whatever our situation, if we are doers of his word, we have a guide to direct our way. Whatever our perplexity, we have a sure counselor. Whatever our sorrow, bereavement, or loneliness, we have a sympathizing friend. But if in our ignorance we make missteps, have you ever made a misstep? Have you made a mistake? Have you done something wrong, right? The Savior does not forsake us. We need never feel that we are alone. Angels are our companions. The comforter that Christ promised to send in his name abides with us. In the way that leads to the city of God, there are no difficulties which those who trust in him may not overcome. There are no dangers which they may not escape. There is not a sorrow, not a grievance, not a human weakness for which he has not provided a remedy. Praise God. None need abandon themselves to discouragement and despair, because that's what the enemy wants anyway, right? Satan may come to you with the cruel suggestion, yours is a hopeless cause or case. You are irredeemable, but he is a liar. But there is hope for you in Christ. God does not bid us overcome in our own strength. So stop trying to do it your own way. This is not, Burger King, having it your own way. He asks us to come close to his side. whatever difficulties we labor under, which weigh down the soul and body. He waits to make us free. And I believe this. So, I hope that today there will be somebody that will give up the driver's seat. You remember the skeleton that was driving? So who's going to drive your car? Who's going to be in control? Are you tired of driving down this dead end? Right? And when we do it our own way, that's where we end up. We are forgiven, and God wants to restore us. So that is our thought for today, is restoration. All right. So we had a bumpy start, as life goes. But at the end, we want to focus on Jesus, who has promised that he can deliver us, that he is with us. And who the Son sets free, he is free indeed. Praise God. Shall we pray? Oh, Father, I thank you so much that although we have problems and we've made mistakes and often our lives are a mess, that you are a faithful God, that your love is beyond our comprehension, and that there is nothing, no thing that we can be struggling with or that can be binding us that you are not able to set us free. For some of us, Lord, it may not be food that is our addiction. But Lord, for all of us, we're addicted to a wicked thing called sin. And I pray that you will deliver us and that you will set us free. And we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.